Welcome to Learn Yourself. In this video, we are going to learn about Chapter 6, Tissues. So let us start with tissue and we'll understand that what are the tissues. Each specialized function is taken up by different group of cells. So in Chapter 5, we have already learned about cell and the group of cell. So tissues are basically group of cell which are performing the same function. This means that particular function is carried out by cluster of cells at a definite place in a body. Many cells are comes together and performing same function. So that's why they are called tissue. So each specialized function. So one function and specialized function is carried out by different group of cell. They are known as tissues in our body. This cluster of cells called tissue is arranged and designed so as to give highest possible efficiency of the function. So this is the main motive of this tissue, that why all the cells are, why different types of cells are coming together and performing a function, because to perform highest possible efficiency function. Now what are the example of this tissue? Blood, phylum and muscles are example of tissues. Now here we are going to see the difference between plant tissue and animal tissue at structural level. So first difference is plants are stationary, they are fixed, they cannot move, whereas animals, they consumed more energy as compared to plants. So this is one of the reason that why animals are consuming more energy compared to plant, because they are not stationary, they are moving all the time, and that's why they consume more energy. Most of the tissues they contain are living, so they have living tissues. Second, they have to be upright, they have a large quantity of supportive tissue. The supportive tissue generally has dead cells, because they have to upright, they have to stay straight, and into this function all the dead cells are supporting them. Whereas in animal all the cells are alive. In animal there are no dead cells. Third difference, the growth in plants is limited to certain region, while this is not so in animal. In plant, some of the parts will grow, whereas some of the parts will not grow. So throughout the lifespan of a plant, some tissues will continue to divide. In animal, and growth will not be there for lifelong. Whereas in plant, we can see that growth will be there throughout their lifespan. We are dividing plant tissues in three basic tissues. First is meristematic tissue, second is simple permanent tissue, and third is complex permanent tissue. Now meristematic tissue is further divided into apical meristem and intercellary meristem. Whereas simple permanent tissue will further divide into three parts, that parenchyma, collenchyma and scalenchyma. Whereas complex permanent tissue will further divide into three parts, vascular tissue, xylem and. Now let us start understanding plant tissues with the very first tissue, that is meristematic tissue. Meristematic tissue is further dividing into three submeristem, that is apical meristem, intercellary meristem and lateral meristem. Now how we have given this name, where they are located, based on that we have given the name. That if they are at the topmost region, then it is known as apical meristem. If they are in between or at the nodal region, then it is known as intercellary meristem. And if they are at the lateral region or bottom region, then it is known as lateral meristem. And new meristematic cells will generated, they all will be same when they are newborn. But afterwards, when they will grow mature, their characteristic will change, and it is depending upon where they are located. And based on that, their function will also change. That if they are at the top region, then they will grow as apical meristem. If they are at the nodal region, then they will grow as intercellary. And if they are at the lateral region, they will grow as lateral meristem. And their function, their characteristic will change as they will grow mature. The main cell features of meristematic tissue, that they are very active, they have dense cytoplasm, their cellular walls are thin, their nuclei is prominent, are lack in vacuoles. Now, what is the function of apical meristem and intercellary meristem and lateral meristem? So this tells that what is the function of this meristematic tissue. That apical meristem is present at the growing tips of stems and roots, and they are responsible for the growth of the plant. Now it also increases the length of stem and root. The girth of the stem or root increases due to lateral meristem or cambium. So this is a network of meristematic tissue which is responsible for the growth of stem and roots. Our second tissue is simple permanent tissue. Now why they are known as permanent tissue? Because some cells will born and they will lose the ability to divide. A cell will be generated and they will keep on dividing and they will keep on generating new cell. Whereas this will remain same, they'll grow mature and they will remain same. They will not divide. So that's why they are known as permanent tissue. And this process is called differentiation. That one tissue will be different from another tissue. The differentiation leads to development of various types of permanent tissues. Now, under permanent tissue, simple permanent tissue, first we are going to learn about parenchyma. And parenchyma is further divided into collenchyma and arenchyma. So parenchyma, where they are located, they will be there beneath the epidermis. Now, what all are the important features of the parenchyma? That the most common simple permanent tissue they have thin cell wall and living cells. They are loosely arranged, so intercellular spaces are there. And the function is that they are storing the food. Now, based on the function of simple permanent tissue, it is further divided into collenchyma and arenchyma. The permanent tissue which has chlorophyll, they will do photosynthesis, and that's why it is known as collenchyma. Chlorophyll, collenchyma. Permanent tissue who has chlorophyll and they are doing photosynthesis, and that's why they are known as collenchyma. Some permanent tissues are having air into them, so that's why in aquatic plants the leaves will be there on the top of the water. They will float and it will help them to do photosynthesis. So in aquatic plant, large air cavities are present in parenchyma to help them float. Such parenchyma type is known as arenchyma. Since they are containing air, it is known as arenchyma. Now another two types of simple permanent tissue, that is collenchyma and scalenchyma. They both are different from each other, as collenchyma gives flexibility to the plant whereas scalenchyma gives strength to the plant. Let us understand important features. Collenchyma gives flexibility to the plant. It allows the bending of the tendrils and stem of climbers without breaking. As you have seen that these are the tendrils, they will bend and they will not break. So this collenchyma tissue also gives flexibility to the plant. So it will not break from in between. And where we can find them? The location of this tissue is in leaf stalk below epidermis, and it also gives mechanical support to the plant. So it gives mechanical support and flexibility to the plant. Now scalenchyma tissue. It makes plant hard and stiff because the cell of this scalenchyma are dead cells. We can see the example of husk of the coconut, that how hard it is there from the outside, because it gives strength, support to the fruit and to the plant. They are long and narrow, they don't have intercellular space. They have thick cell walls. And where they are located? They are located around stems, around vascular bundles, and in the veins of the leaves, in the hard covering of the seeds, and into the nuts. So where and all it required strength, at all the places the scalenchyma tissue will be present, and it gives strength to the plant. So flexibility and mechanical support will be given by the collenchyma, whereas strength will be given by the scalenchyma. Now we are going to study about outermost layer of the plant, and that is epidermis. These cells are important. They will change as per the situation, and one important pores of plants, that is stomata, are part of epidermis. So let us start with the location, that they are on the surface of the plant. They are outermost layers and they are called epidermis. They are single cell layer and they will change as per the situation of the plant. For example, if plant is in dry habitats or in desert, then water is the most important for the plant. Dry habitat, the epidermis layer is thick, which will give protection against the water loss, because water is the most important for the plant which are in the desert area or in the dry habitat. So they will become thick and it will protect water loss. The entire surface of the plant has an outer covering, and that is of epidermis. Now when the plant is in the water, for example lotus plant, so the aerial parts of this plant will secrete a waxy and water resistant layer, so that the plant will get protection against the loss of the water, mechanical injury, and they will not get easily attacked by parasitic fungi. So as the situation changes for the plant, this epidermis layer will, now this epidermis tissues are giving protection. So there will be no intercellular space in between them. So they'll give a complete protection to plant surface. Now stomata is very important part of epidermis. The outer side walls are thicker, but the small pores will be within them, and they are called stomata. Now stomata are enclosed by two kidney shaped cells, and they are known as guard cell. They are necessary for the exchanging of the gases with the atmosphere. We know that with the stomata, plants will do the respiration and photosynthesis. So they are important for the exchange of the gases. Now transpiration. What is a transpiration? Transpiration is a water loss from the surface of the leaves. So it also takes place through the stomata. So this stomata is a part of epidermis. They are responsible for the gaseal exchange and transpiration of the plant. Now this is a very important point, that as plant will grow old, the outer layer of the plant will become more thick and thick, and this cell will become dead. So when we will see a cell of a cork, then they are dead and they are completely arranged without intercellular space. So this tissue will secrete suberin in their walls and make it extremely impervious. Now what is the meaning of impervious? Impervious means the exchange of any material will not be possible through this cell. So they will not allow any kind of exchange. So once this cell will dead, they will not allow even the exchange of gases and water through them. So they will make a complete protective layer on the outer surface of the plant. And the example is cork. Our second plant tissue is complex permanent tissue, and under complex permanent tissue there are three types of tissue: vascular tissue, xylem, and so vascular tissues are generally conducting tissues, and they will constitute vascular bundle. Now this vascular tissue is an important feature of complex plant, and because of this the plants will survive in terrestrial environment. That means they will survive in difficult environment. That is the main function of vascular tissue. Now xylem. Xylem consists of four types of tissue. They are tracheids, vessel, xylem parenchyma and xylem fibers. So these four types of tissues will be there in xylem. Now tracheids and vessel have thick walls and they are consist of dead cells. Tracheids and vessels are tubular structure. This allows them to transport water and mineral vertically. Parenchyma stores food. So xylem parenchyma will be different from other cells because they will store food, whereas tracheid and vessel will transport water and mineral. Xylem fibers are mainly in support function. So all the four types of xylem will perform different function. Now third tissue is phloem. Now phloem is made up of five types of cell: sieve tubes, companion cell, phloem fibers and phloem parenchyma. Now sieve tubes and tubular cell are with perforated walls. So they are having small perforation in their walls. Now phloem transports food from leaves to other part of the plant except phloem fibers and other phloem cell which are living cells. Now types of animal tissues. There are four types of animal tissues: epithelial tissue, connective tissue, muscular tissue and nervous tissue. Under epithelial tissue, there are five types of tissue: scarified squamous epithelium, columnar epithelium, cuboidal epithelium and glandular epithelium. All these epithelium cells known as per their functions. So once you will understand their functions correctly, it will be very easy to remember their names as well as their function. Then connective tissue: blood, bone, ligament, cartilage, areolar tissue and adipose. Some of the tissues, some of the connective tissues, we know them very well. Two or three tissues are new to you, but they are also very easy to understand. Under muscular tissue, there are two types of tissues. They are known as voluntary muscle and involuntary muscle. And the last one is nervous tissue. So let us start with animal tissue. The first one is epithelial tissue. So first let us learn the location of the epithelial tissue, the arrangement of epithelial tissue and the function of epithelial tissue. Now the outer layer in animal body is made up of epithelial tissues. Now epithelium covers most of the organ and cavities. Sometimes they will separate one body organ from another. So they will form outer layer or cavity around organ or body system. Skin, lining of the mouth, lining of the blood vessel and the lining in lung alveoli and kidney tubules are made up of epithelium tissues. Now how they are arranged? So they are tightly packed, almost they don't have any kind of intercellular spaces, and whatever substance will enter into a body, they have to pass through this epithelium cell. At least one cell wall will be there in each and every organ which is made up of epithelial cell and which will be outer layer. Now what is the basic function of epithelial cell? That it is depending upon the permeability. That cells of various epithelia plays important role in regulating the material exchange. And regardless of the type, all the epithelial cells are usually separated based on underlying tissue by an extracellular fibrous basement. So once the epithelial tissue will be there, the layer of epithelial tissue will be there, they are being separated from other cell based on another layer which is beneath them, and they are made up of extracellular fibrous basement. So once this epithelial cell layer will be there, and they will be always followed by the extracellular fibrous basement. This layer will be always there beneath epithelial cell. Epithelial cells shape is based on their function, in which organ they are located and which kind of function they are doing. Based on their shape will vary. Now let us understand 5 types of epithelial cell, and they will differ in their function and their shapes will based on their function. Now first type is squamous epithelium. Now this is a very simple kind of epithelial cell, and they are a simple flat kind of cell. They are present in esophagus and in lining of the mouth. They are extremely thin and flat kind of cell. So they are known as squamous epithelium. Second is stratified squamous epithelium. These cells are arranged in many layers. So that's why they are known as stratified squamous epithelium. And their function is to give mechanical strength to a body, and they will prevent wear and tear. Now third is columnar epithelium. As you can see in the figure, their shape is like a column, and as you can see it here, this epithelial cell is followed by beneath this epithelial cell, the extra fibrous cell layers are there. So all these light blue color cells are extra fibrous cell, and they are not epithelial cell. Epithelial cells are only this pink color cell. So this squamous epithelium, this is stratified epithelium, this is columnar epithelium. Each and every epithelial cell layer is followed by the extra fibrous cell material. Now columnar epithelial's shape is like a column, and their function is to absorb a material. So in intestine, tall epithelial cell is present where they will absorb the material. Whereas in respiratory tract, the epithelial cell will have a cilia-like material which will help them to move the mucus forward and clear it. So as the function of epithelium cell will vary, their shape will also vary. Now cuboidal epithelial, they are in the shape of cube, and this cube shape will be there in the kidney tubules and in the duct of salivary gland, where they are giving mechanical support to kidney tubules and glands. Now the last one is glandular epithelium. So epithelial cell often acquire additional specialization as a gland cell. Now gland cell will secrete the substance, and epithelial cell will have a definite shape for them. And how this glandular epithelium will form, that the tissue will bend towards inward or fold towards inward, and that is how glandular epithelium will form. And this epithelial cell will work as a cell present into the gland, and they will secrete a substance. So as you have seen here, as the function will vary for the epithelium, their shape will also vary, and they will perform the function as required by the organ. Now another type of animal tissue is connective tissue. The first one is blood. So blood is a fluid, and it will transport the material, and it has a matrix called plasma. Now plasma contains protein, salt and hormone, and whereas blood will flow and transport gases, digested food, hormones and waste material to different part of the body. Blood also consists of plasma, RBC, WBC and platelets. So all this material will be suspended into the blood, and along with that it also transport the material to the body parts. Second is bone. Bone is another example of connective tissue. It forms a framework and it gives strength to our body. It anchors muscle and support the organ. It is a strong and non-flexible tissue, and bone generally composed of calcium and phosphorus compound. Then comes ligament. Our bones are connected to each other by a special types of tissue, and that is known as ligament. It has a considerable strength. Now under ligament, another type of tissue is there, and that is known as tendons. Now this tendons connects muscle to bone. So two types of tissue we have seen here, ligament and tendons. Ligament will connect bone to bone, whereas tendon will connect bone to muscle. So this is a basic difference between ligament and tendons. Both are having a considerable strength, but tendons are fibrous tissue with great strength, but it also has flexibility, whereas the ligament do not have flexibility. Tendons are fibrous tissue. They also have a strength, but they have flexibility. So this is the basic difference between ligament and tendons. Now another connective tissue is cartilage. So cartilage composed of protein and sugar smoothens the bone surface at the joints, and they will present in nose, ear, trachea and larynx. Another type of connective tissue is areolar. Areolar tissue present in skin, muscle, around the blood vessel, nerves and in the bone marrow. Their function is to fill the space inside the organs, to support internal organ and help them to repair their tissue. The last one is adipose connective tissue. Now this adipose tissue is a fat storing tissue. The cells of this tissue are filled with fat globules. These tissues are also act as a insulator. As they are storing the fat globules, they will help body and protect body against extreme heat and cold. So they will work as an insulator. Now third type of animal tissue is muscular tissue. Now this muscular tissue cell are elongated cell. They are also called muscle fiber. They are consist of contractile protein, and which this protein will contract and relax to cause a movement. Now there are two types of muscle, voluntary muscle and involuntary muscle. Voluntary muscles are the muscles which will move according to our wish. Now these are also called skeletal muscle, and they are mostly attached to the bones. Now under microscope, this muscle show alternate light and dark bands or striation when strained appropriately. As a result, they are called striated muscle, as you can see here into the figure. So they are known as striated muscle because when we strain it properly, they will show alternate bands. So that's why they are known as striated muscle. These tissues are long, cylindrical, unbranched and multinucleate. They have many nucleus within one cell. So they are multinucleate. Whereas involuntary muscle, they will work by their own. They will not work as per our wish. And they are present in alimentary canal of blood vessel, iris of the eye, then into the uterus and bronchi of the lungs. These are all the places where we can find involuntary muscle. Smooth muscles or involuntary muscles controls all the movement into these organs. Now these cells have point at their ends, as you can see it over here. At both the ends they are having a point. And they are uninucleate, means they only have one nucleus in the cell. They are uninucleate and they are unstriated because we cannot see any band pattern. So that's why they are unstriated. Now comes cardiac muscle. They will show rhythmic movement, contraction and relaxation into the heart. So they are known as cardiac muscle, and they are also uninucleate. So in between these three types of muscles, The striated muscles, based on their name, that once we stain them, they will show alternate bands. So that's why they are striated. They are multinucleated. Whereas unstriated and cardiac are uninucleate. Both are involuntary, but cardiac muscle will show rhythmic contraction and relaxation movement. The last animal tissue is nervous tissue. As you can see here into the figure, these cells are very long. They have nucleus, cytoplasm, and at the end, long thin hair-like parts will be there. Usually each neuron has a single long part that is called axon, as you can see it here. Now at the end of axon, very small thin branch-like parts will arise. Generally these cells are long and up to meter long. Now many nerve fibers brought together by connective tissue and make up a nerve. This nervous tissue's function is to carry a signal and to send a signal. So thank you for watching and learning with us. If you have any doubt, please comment down below. I'll see you in next video. Till then, keep learning, keep sharing, and don't forget to subscribe, Learn Yourself.